Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Cornerstone Financial Consultants are not affiliated. Hello and welcome to the Journey Mindset Podcast. My name is Sean Ulrich, and I'm a financial advisor at Cornerstone Financial in Washington, Missouri. And I am joined today, as always, by my co-host, Ron Shear. And Ron is a former financial advisor with a wealth of knowledge on all things investing. So we are lucky to have him today. And Ron, man, what is one thing you are doing to enjoy your journey this week?
Well, it's been, really officially the opening part of summer when you get past Memorial Day. And my wife and I have been very, very fortunate. We just bought a little vacation place nearby, and we've kind of been getting it doesn't really need anything, but that doesn't prevent us from making changes. That's just kind of how we were built, both of us.
Gotta have it.
And we actually bought this more for our kids and grandkids. I don't know that. I think we'll use it quite a little bit, but it's for their future, and so that's what we've been doing. How about you?
Man, I am lucky enough I get to take a little trip this weekend. I'm actually going to fly to Orlando, Florida this weekend and reconnect with a buddy of mine that also went to Louisiana Tech and have a nice little lake day. So I'm not sure what lake we're going to. Hopefully some ocean time as well, but it should be a good weekend for me.
Well, good. I hope you enjoy your trip.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And our topic for today was actually thought of by our newest intern, Jenna, as she posed the question, what should you expect with your first meeting with an advisor? And I thought that was a great topic for us to talk about today.
Great topic.
Absolutely. So I'd have to imagine, depending upon the financial institution that you go to for your first meeting with an advisor, different companies have to have different styles or processes that they probably run people through in that initial meeting for that first time. So Ron, I'm curious for you, how do you think people should think about, their first meeting with an advisor?
Well, I think there are a few key points that you want to try to look at. And I have a tendency to look at it being more of a job interview as to somebody that you're actually going to hire. Because when you really get down to it, that's exactly what you're going to want to do. And I think there's a few things that you want to look at. You want to look at, are they morally the same as you, or morally, where you're at? And I think that becomes very, very important because you want to know that the person who is giving you advice has the same moral compass that you have, and that sounds simple enough. And you can assume that everybody is built the same way, but that's not necessarily true. The other thing I think that's relatively important is I would want to look for a person who takes on the role of an educator more than anything else. And I think one word of caution. If you go to your first interview when you're interviewing a broker and they automatically start out in the sales mode, I'd be a little cautious about that. I'd want someone who's going to take some time, probably not make any recommendations, but would be very content and very intent in knowing me and what my goals and what my future, what the financial future wants to look like. So I think it's just something that I'd be very, very careful with.
Yeah, and that's a great perspective to take too, because I think when the advisor takes the educational stance, that it gives some confidence and some comfort to that individual that's in there. And there's nothing worse than going into a meeting and feeling like, oh my gosh, this person's talking down to me, and making me feel like I don't know anything. That's just not a comfortable position to be in. So the 5 areas that we're going to focus on today are, number 1, hopefully some open and honest questions, between the advisor and the individual or couple that's coming in today to better understand their current life situation. The second conversation topic is going to be just investment experience of the individual or people that are coming in for that day. Number 3 would be, what are they interested in? And what do they really see those next couple of years of their lives looking like? And what do they want it to look like? What are they kind of excited about here in the near future? Number 4 is, what is their main purpose for coming in that day? You may be able to, as an advisor, already gain that, before you even have to ask that question through just them explaining their situation. And number 5, hopefully you can conclude with how the advisor believes that they can help you in that moment, or if, they need you to come back at a different time with a little bit more time,
Right.
they can still provide some value. So that's going to be where we'll start today, and we'll roll into our first topic, understanding what should you expect when you meet with an advisor for the first time. So the first thing that people should expect when they sit down with an advisor is to hopefully, have the advisor do a little bit more listening than talking, if it's done correctly. And it should give the advisor an open and honest picture of that person's current financial situation. And I really feel like this is the best place to start, because if the advisor did their prep work, they had the people bring in their current financial statements. And if they've done this, they've done their research ahead of time. And depending upon how they were introduced, it's nice for the advisor to just have a comfort level with that person that's coming in. Hopefully it was a warm introduction. So Ron, I added the part, about open and honesty on the part of the individual or couple coming in. How would you gauge, and just how important it is to know that you're getting the full picture when you meet with somebody for the first time? How would you gauge, if you were getting the full picture, and how much importance would you put on just open and honesty with that first meeting?
Well, here's the situation, and I'm a great, not a great one. I'm not great at anything.
Yeah.
I like to use analogies, and we've had clients or people, prospective clients that call and want to visit on the phone, and they think that their feeling is that we can know them adequately to make a recommendation. And I used to tell people I can't do that on the telephone, very much the way a barber can't give you a haircut over the telephone. We have to have a certain person-to-person relationship because so many things get lost on the telephone. You don't get the sense of body language. You don't get the sense of things that are really important unless you have those face-to-face meetings. And I'd be very, very leery of a broker or financial person who wasn't willing to take that time, because that's of utmost importance. And you bring up the honesty part of it, and I have to tell you that I don't know that there are a lot of people in our area, brokers. Everybody kind of works on the same model, and we take time and we really try to get to know our clients. But that isn't always the case around the country. There are some brokers out there that have found to be not scrupulous, so you want to make sure their moral compass is set same direction as yours.
Yeah, and that's a perfect lead into our next point, which is just trust, and I feel like the people that we've been able to, have the most success with over a long period of time, there is that element of trust. And if you are going to bring on a prospective client as well, that trust piece is just number one. If you're going to talk to somebody about your current financial situation, you have to have earned the right, the opportunity to really get that full picture and that open picture with them. And I just think that's a huge reason why somebody would pick an advisor in the first place, or a team, is because they trust that team and they feel like they're going to do a good job over a long period of time.
Right.
And to give some people some more perspective on just some information that they can really help, an advisor gain a better understanding of their full financial picture. Like we mentioned before, number 1 is the current investment statements. What are you currently invested in and what kind of accounts? Number 2 would be just kind of your rough annual or monthly income, and what savings rate are you currently employing? What investing rate are you currently doing right now? The third one, and this is huge, what kind of debt? What kind of debt are you bringing into this situation? What's pulling away from those future dollars that could be working for you? And then the fourth one is just any other major financial related issues or job related issues that you feel like are currently present or can be present here in the near future. That'll give the advisor the best chance to try to provide some value. So Ron, is there anything else that you would add to that list before we move on to our second point?
Well, that's a fairly comprehensive list with a lot, in each of these 4 points. There would be subsets, of course, that could be touched on and probably should be touched on. But I think that pretty well nails it. I think it's pretty comprehensive.
Boom. So our second point is going to be, when considering the question, what should I expect when I meet with an advisor, is going to just be general investment experience of anybody that comes through the door. And this is a cool, and honestly, I think it's a fun part of our jobs when we bring somebody in for the first time. You get a good idea of, are they investing? Do they have any prior experience, or are they somebody that is absolutely brand new to this? And when we figure out what type of investment experience they have, it gives us an idea of how we can gauge the conversation and how we need to cater the words that we use to make them feel more comfortable and confident in that situation. And I think some people come in feeling like they're totally helpless, and that's what they'll lead with. I don't look at any of this stuff. I don't look at the market. You guys, are totally going to be the ones guiding us in this moment. Then Aaron does a phenomenal job of letting people know, oh, you probably know more than you think. You're familiar with businesses. You're familiar how, putting money to work over a long period of time. He gives them, that vote of confidence right when they walk through the door.
He does.
And it's good. It's good to have because that's what you want out of an advisor. So Ron, how did you think about that initial meeting with an individual when it came to the topic of investment experience?
Well, I always started out asking about what was the best investment they'd ever made in their life to this point. And sometimes if it was a new investor and maybe they had just had a limited amount of experience in a retirement plan at their place of employment, they said, well, I've never invested in anything. Well, we explore that a little bit. Well, do you own a home? Are you in the process of buying a home? And get them to think about the fact that we're all investors. I mean, we invest not only our time, but we also have places, or our money, we also have places where we invest our time, whether that's, in a hobby that you have, but try to open up and ask things other than yes and no questions to try to understand and know the client as well as we can. What we've learned through the years is that there are a segment of people out there that are very willing to just absolutely throw the money at you and let you take care of it. We found that doesn't make for the best client. The clients that we want to work with are those who can admit that maybe they don't know as much as they need to know about investing, but they also exhibit a willingness to learn. That is the key role in our business, is to teach investors and our clients how they're invested, because what we've learned there is if you don't understand how your money's invested, if you don't have that understanding, it can create anxiety when the market does its gyrations, and it always will because it always has. And if you don't understand that and you have anxiety about it, the next door neighbor of anxiety is fear. And the last thing we want is for our clients to be fearful about how their money is invested. So that's why we work at the equation from that direction.
Exactly. And I don't know if people have noticed, Ron, we got a new backdrop, for us behind us right here. We're looking good. We're making upgrades. And one of the guys right here, Chris Hogan, to just go off of what you were saying too, he talks about as an advisor how he likes to educate, empower, and encourage. Right. And you first talked about education. Second one is empower. When you give somebody the confidence and when you say to them, hey, I don't want you to not know anything. I want you to take some time and get familiar with your investments, educate, empower. And then obviously the last one is encourage, because life throws so much at us. That's, to me, is a phenomenal role for an advisor to play. And just going right off of what you were also saying, Ron, I feel like when we meet with people, there's usually one of four categories that they usually fall into. One can be they have no investment experience at all, and they're just kind of all ears in that moment. Number two is they have a little bit of investing experience and they're working through their retirement plan, but they're not exactly sure what they're invested in. Third one is they have a retirement account. And then most commonly, we were actually talking about this morning, Jenna and I, they have a fun account, one that they just kind of do, whatever they want with that money, and they're willing to maybe potentially gamble with it. And they do some trading on their own. Mm-hmm. And the number four is an investor that's well-versed in fees and asset types in their retirement plan, and they really want to know and believe what are the most prudent investments for them to be making this year or over a long period of time. Those are usually the four buckets that we can see people into. So, Ron, have you found yourself, talking to people in one of those four categories there, and is there anything else that you would add with those different types of people that you come into?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it pretty much covers the spectrum of what you're going to find when you have a new potential client that you've not worked with before. Now, I can also say that one of the other things that does happen is we're on the second and third generation of clients now, but people that we started with as clients 30 years ago, and now we have a relationship with their kids, and in some cases with their grandkids. Yep. And that's an amazing thing. And just because they have the same last name or they have a family relationship, all investors are different. I mean, each one of them has a different goal. And that's what we try to do, is we try to ferret that out to find out what the goals are and how how they like to invest, and what their if they're fairly aggressive investors or if they're very conservative investors. That's what we have to do in those initial meetings to determine. And that doesn't say that it can't change over time, but that's a good starting place, is to try to figure out and learn by conversation with and thought-provoking questions as to where these folks are in the conservative to aggressive spectrum of investing.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder, you're listening to the Journey Mindset podcast, and you can connect with us at thejourneymindset.com or reach out to us. We are Cornerstone Financial Consultants in Washington, Missouri at 636-239-5000. And our third discussion point when exploring the question, what should you expect when you meet with an advisor for the first time? The third discussion topic that we are going to look at is, what are they interested in and what do they expect to have happen over the next couple of years in their life? And this is another reason why I enjoy this job, because you get a little sneak peek behind the curtain of just what people have coming up, and hopefully they're making some prudent investments behind the scenes that they may not be talking to everybody else about. And I think it's cool, when we here at Cornerstone Financial have had clients, or you guys have had relationships with people for 20, 30, 40-year periods of time, and they're so familiar with one another that they just know them really well. And to me, a great advising relationship begins with kind of making similar connections with interests with people, because that lays the foundation for the advisor to, really provide value over a long period of time. So, Ron, what are some of your favorite aspects to getting to know a prospective client for the first time and to get a better idea of what their life is going to look like in the years ahead?
Well, I'm one of those people, and I've always been this way. I like to make connections with people from where they grew up, or their family relationships, or whatever. And our business is different to the extent that we can't openly say who our clients are. And a lot of times, what happens is someone will come in here as a prospective client, and you'd love to be able to say that, well, your aunt and uncle have done business with me for 20 or 30 years. You can't do that because the nature of privacy, and it's a good thing that we can't, and we wouldn't even if we could. One of the things that I so much enjoy is when we have social events for our clients, and people show up, and all of a sudden the light goes on. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you did business up here. Well, yeah, we have, and we've been here for a number of years. I really enjoy that. And I really get the biggest charge out of learning a person and knowing what their investment parameters are, but then also knowing the fun things in life that they in their personal life, what their goals are, what their hobbies are, who their family members are. I just enjoy that full picture for the simple reason that it helps me in my job to guide and educate these folks in the ways of their investment portfolio. It's just I guess you could go to a catalog, but for me to go to the catalog and design the perfect job, for me this was a perfect fit. Now I have some clients who may not agree with that. They say, well, you know what? But for me, it's been a great ride. I've loved it, every day of it.
Yeah, if you're a people person that loves the market, loves keeping up with kind of what the next big thing is, and really feeling like you can provide value, it's a great space. It's a great space to be in. And like we said, it's fun to hear what people have coming up over the next 2 to 5 years of their life. It could be rental properties. It could be starting a business, taking a trip, planning for a wedding, or even planning for college, you name it. But it's really cool to see how people are choosing to live their lives. And the reason why it's so valuable in that first meeting, especially when you get that good 3 to 5 year picture, is because the majority of their investing is going to be for the long term. And they, you as the advisor can really speak into those little moments in their life and say, hey, this is how we really believe we can help you achieve those goals. And that should give that person a better idea of is this a good fit or not. So the fourth direction that we're going to head in, and the conversation can go when they meet with an advisor for the first time, is what is their main purpose for coming in today? And like we said earlier, the advisor may already know based off of what they've set up until this point, but it's a good idea to really understand, all right, if we're going to focus on one thing to start, what would that be? And most of the time, this is, in my opinion, what causes people to come see an advisor because they have something on the top of their mind that's
Right.
been going and kind of rumbling around up there. And they're like, you know what? I gotta go talk to somebody about this situation. So the most common reasons that we see for somebody coming to see an advisor are to start saving for retirement as a younger individual, or maybe somebody in the middle part of their lives, hopefully not too far down. Number two is just to put together a comprehensive financial plan. They have a lot of different moving parts financially. They want to aggregate it all together and get an idea of, am I going to be okay for retirement? The third one, and this is the Dave Ramsey stuff, to get out of debt. They put themselves in a little bit of a hole. They want to still be able to invest. They have some income coming in. They want to figure out, what is that going to look like to get out of debt? Number four is just straight up investment advice. They've got some money that they want to put to work. They'll come see us for the first time and say, hey, where do you think this money is best allocated? Number five is just a complicated or a detailed financial situation. 6 is beneficiaries. 7 is major goals. And then lastly, can be saving for college for kids. So Ron, I'm going to throw you a tricky one here and ask you, how did you handle it when somebody came in and their main focus was on something that you could tell that really shouldn't be their main focus? They may need to divert it in another direction, but they give you the entire situation. How would you redirect them back where their focus should be?
Well, I think the way that I would typically handle that was I always, and sometimes I did this well and sometimes I failed miserably, but I would try to point out as lovingly as I could that, I know where you want to go. I'm not 100% sure it's the way that you're investing or what you currently have is going to get you where you need to be. And I think you have to be careful with that. You don't want to dash someone's dreams. At the same time, you owe it to clients to be honest based on what you know about them, and if they've given you a fairly good and accurate and full financial picture, it's a good starting point. But yeah, I mean, there's sometimes you have to be the one who gives some. Say, you may not want to hear this, but I don't think investing in A is a good place. I think you need to do B, and here's the reasons. But always give it back, and ultimately it's always their money, and ultimately it's their decision. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's been in situations where when clients didn't follow our advice. And it was maybe you could see that there was a chance for problems.
Yeah.
I would make a note in the file, and even I've on occasion had them sign the fact that on this day in May I decided, or we discussed this, and I advised not to do that, but then they directed me to do otherwise. I mean,
Make a note of it. Yeah.
well, I think you just have to, for the simple reason it's part of the society we live in. You just want to make sure that you give the best and accurate and most the best investment advice, and give it in as lovingly a way as you can, even when you just totally disagree with the client and what they're trying to do.
So for me, when I hear somebody's main purpose for coming in, my natural tendency is to try to figure that out, how I can solve that problem as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But as tough as it is, just like what we were talking about, sometimes investments, they take time. They take time over a long period of time, and you do need to redirect that focus to more of a savings percentage, or maybe how can we increase some income that's coming in, because strictly relying on that short-term investment performance is so tricky and so unpredictable. It's not really realistic in the short term to be able to say that to somebody. So regardless, I hope that when somebody leaves our office, they feel more informed and they feel more confident than they would have if they hadn't walked into our doors. So the last point, the fifth point that we're going to talk about today, is going to be, what are some areas that we feel like we can really help them out? And I think that this is a key part of meeting with any advisor for the first time. And I don't know if every advisor is going to show, the full value that they can bring in that first initial meeting. But, they honestly, they may not have the full picture if the person isn't being transparent with them. But based off of the information that they give, that the individual gives the advisor should be able to give you some sort of feedback on that initial, meeting, that initial consultation. And it could be a broad overview of how you could potentially proceed forward, but regardless, it should give the individual a good feel for, is this the right advisor for me? And if you have to imagine, Ron, that people would have enough grace and patience if they bring in a real difficult financial situation to give the advisor a little bit more time to get back to them. If they bring into that first meeting just a crazy complicated situation, the advisor may say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit more time on this. I'll reach back out to you to let you know. So Ron, after hearing all of our first 1 through 4 points, if the advisor is really locked in and listened up, do you think do you think it's fair to put the advisor in the position in that first meeting to be able to give somebody some decent advice on how they can try to help their situation based off of what they say?
I don't necessarily think it's unfair, but I think candidly, you just can't shoot from the hip and solve everybody's financial problem in the best way without knowing the client and really doing the research. It's, as you said before, it just doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes time, and things have to play out a little bit. So I think one of the things that you have to stress with a new client or a potential client is that we don't necessarily concentrate on getting things done quickly. We just concentrate on getting things done correctly, and that should matter to them. And the truth of the matter is it does matter to clients. They love that and they respect it, and it's part of the reason why through the years we've been able to build a good practice and get to the second and third generation of clients.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we've mentioned this on previous shows. One of the more interesting things an advisor can provide, not necessarily in that first meeting, is a retirement analysis. They can do a comprehensive view of everything that you have going on. And this can give you a better idea and give you more confidence heading into that final stage of life. And at this time, advisors may also talk about a few more unique directions based off of that main purpose that you brought in. They could talk to you about insurance or long-term care, savings advice, some mortgage guidance. The housing market right now is as crazy as it is. They may talk to you about trying to refinance. Some general assistance with taxes. They'll usually say consult with your CPA or any other big moves or life situations that you may have. So Ron, any other thoughts on kind of some different directions that an advisor may go in that first initial meeting?
Well, I think here again, you try to gather as much information and get to know the potential client as well as you can possibly know. And if you are fortunate to establish that relationship, that's an ongoing relationship that in most cases it will last years and years and years. In some cases, 20, 30, and even 40 years, and then to the next generation. So I think it just bears to take time and to get it right and really know and understand a client as best that you can. And that's what makes the ride in the relationship so sweet, is the fact that our clients are our friends, and that's by design. I mean, our enemies just don't choose to do business with us.
And to conclude our show today, let's review back over the 5 different conversation topics people can expect when they meet with an advisor for the first time. Number 1 is just a series of open and honest questions to try to better understand your current life situation, and hopefully, you're able to get some open and honest answers back from that advisor. Number 2 is just a general idea of overall investing experience of you, the individual or the couple that's coming in to see that advisor. The third one is they're going to ask you what you're interested in and what they expect you, or what you expect to have happen over the next 2 to 5 years of your life. The fourth is hopefully they're answering what your main purpose is for coming in that day. And the fifth one is the advisor should be able to provide you with some value, some sort of general direction based off of that initial meeting. So at this point, at the conclusion of that first meeting, the prospective client should feel heard and feel like they've gotten most, if not all, of their questions answered, and they should have a good idea of what next steps would look like. So Ron, any final thoughts on our show today about coming in to meet with an advisor for the first time?
Just know what questions you want to ask your advisor, and be cautious and be careful. If an advisor is willing and wants to start immediately with trading in an account, is anxious to transfer an account into you, just be cautious. Make sure that you feel comfortable and you have a certain level of trust. I mean, I think we're fortunate in our area here that we have a good group of brokers in the community. And I have to say, I wouldn't hesitate to do business with any of them. And that's coming from the brokerage business. And I truly mean that. We're just incredibly gifted in our area here. And we hope that you'll give Cornerstone a shot. That's of course, why we do what we do.
That's right. That's right. So the reason for the podcast and the real heart behind all of our messages lies in the gospel. We believe that God sent his only son, Jesus, to this world with a message of good news. The good news is that we as humans do not need to earn our way into heaven. Instead, we need to repent of the current way that we live, living for ourselves in our own personal glory, and instead choose to invite Jesus into our lives to follow his word, what we believe to be truth. And then, Ron, man, I think you're going to wrap it up for us today if you want to hit that last point, if that sounds good.
You know, Sean, the thing is we're wholeheartedly believe that we're all created as human beings to do good and to love our fellow human beings, particularly the ones that we inhabit this time on this space and on the globe. And it's all based and rooted in the truth that Jesus Christ is responsible for our salvation. And it's driven by love, and with this newfound freedom that we have with our salvation, the good that we do for our fellow human beings is just the only thing that we can do. It's based on God's love.
Boom. Love it. So as always, be sure to connect with us at thejourneymindset.com and visit our company page, Cornerstone, 2invest.com, and reach out to us at Cornerstone Financial in Washington, Missouri at 636-239-5000 if you would like to connect and learn more about what it would look like to invest with us here at Cornerstone Financial in Washington, Missouri. And our goal is to always get to know your particular situation and to see how we can help. So big thank you for tuning in today. We love being on 99.9 KFAV.